folks, we're going to go ahead and get started here. We got a couple of people in the queue. I'm going to kind of tell you what's cooking here. We're still waiting on Chad to join us. Jim is not with us today. He and Tom are off up in Michigan with a couple of high school reunions, I think, of their various spouses. And Chad and I just returned this morning on red-eye flights from California. And Chad still may be under the weather. But this is Tim Yendel. I'm going to get us started here, and we'll see if we can raise Chad from the dead. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today is the 18th of July, and I'm not sure what number of the call this is, but we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll see what kind of trouble we can get in. First caller is ending in 4512. Go ahead.
Hello. Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine. This is Richard in Birmingham.
Hi there, Richard in Birmingham. How's your world?
Oh, man, it's great. It's great. Hey, I just want to call in and, say thanks to everything. Everything's going great with me. Matter of fact, right about 30 minutes ago, I got a call from an investor on a listing that I got. Last couple of weeks, I've got two calls come list me. So, hey, it's, so we hopefully get him in there and get a cash deal, close in 7 days and everything. And then I closed two this month on from my previous lead. So everything's going great. And but I got one question on my leads. I very seldom ever get any names or contacts or anything on the probate lawyer side. Is that normal when we get our leads?
It depends, unfortunately, 100% on what's on the docket in the courthouse. If it's there, we give it to you. If it isn't, unfortunately, we can't do anything about that. We can only pull the data that's there. Okay, well, evidently in Jefferson County, then here where I work out of, the greater Birmingham area, they don't list it, because every now and then, of course, I've run a search on the lawyers that deals a lot in probate, so now I know I've got a list of them. So when I'm going through my call list, my leads, then I know when I look at that, and of course I familiarize myself with them now, so I pretty much know if it is an attorney or that's serving as a personal representative or whatever. So, but that was just one question that I had. But no, other than that, hey, everything's going great on the leads. So do you occasionally get, there are some that show up with attorneys shown? Very well. This month, I know I just got my leads in yesterday, and there's one attorney that showed up on 3 or 4 of them, and then that was it. But the other months, more than likely, only maybe one at the most where it shows up who the attorney is. Sure. So one of the things, the reason I'm asking is that part of the challenge, the reason that that's there is to help you kind of do some targeting of the attorneys out of the business and establish a relationship with those attorneys. And one of the things I would suggest you do, and particularly the one that you saw yesterday, which is showing up on multiples of them, that's somebody you need to reach out to. You need to go spend some time and get after that attorney. Oh, yeah, definitely that. And but when I first got started, believe it or not, my first month, of course, I do a lot of, as Chad and I have talked about, I do a lot of owners and expires, but my first listing that I got, of course, I'm seasoned, so if it had been a new person, it probably would have blew their mind. But of all things, I got it was the probate judge. Oh, that's great. I know, and so she was good. She wasn't one of these that you know how they are. Those judges, some of them are great. The other ones think they're like a supreme judge, court judge, or whatever. But no, and I told her what I did, and she asked me what I did, and I told her, and she said, well, at least I know now. There's someone out there that's trying to help my clients. So, but I told her, I said, and as we hung up, I said, yeah, now if anybody calls and they don't have an agent, you be sure that you refer them to me. Sure. No, that's great, man. That's awesome. That's a good thing. Yeah. So anyway, but like I said, I appreciate everything. Y'all have a great day. Hey, keep on thinking. Wow. Hold on a second. You still there? Yeah. Yep. Okay, go ahead. I don't know what that turned out to be, but that's okay. We're all good now.
Okay, well, I'm going to let you go because I know you got everybody else to talk to, but I appreciate it, and y'all have a great day.
All right, bud. You have a good one, too. Thanks for calling. Okay, *6 and 1 puts you in the queue, and our next caller ends in 4467.
Hello?
Hello there. How are you?
Hey, what's going on? My name is Dwayne from CT, Connecticut.
Hey there, Dwayne from CT, Connecticut. How are you today?
I'm good. I actually have 2 questions today. I actually been following you guys for the last, 5-6 months. So you guys been, giving me some real good information. I actually sent out my my letters to my to potential sellers that I have. But the only problem is that in my area, when I go to the courthouse, they only provide the name and addresses, but they don't provide the phone numbers. So my first question, how can I look up phone numbers? Do you guys have any information on that?
Well, you can subscribe to our service, and we provide all of that. That'd be my best answer. I mean, that's what we're here for, and we do that. The other thing that you can do is maybe look up. You can go to Whitepages. That's a source that's there. Spokeo is another source you might want to take a look at. But we do an incredibly elaborate job of not only providing a phone number for the personal representative, but multiple phone numbers that will allow you to contact that same person. And that's a big part of the service that we offer. So certainly I would encourage you to consider doing that.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into that. My second question, I understand that in this game you gotta have resources, and me and my partner we've been looking at resources such as real estate sales and moving companies, and et cetera, et cetera. The only problem is we don't have enough capital. So my next question is, what resource can I provide the seller if I don't have the right capital for those type of services? What other services can I provide?
Are you a realtor or are you an investor?
I'm an investor.
Okay. So, I mean, depending on, are you talking about providing services like clean out crews and repairs and things like that? Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
So part of that obviously is just providing access to those people. If you build a team of people, what you want to do is you want to go out and contact the folks that are made to support that kind of business, people who do estate sales, people who do clean out, people who do minor handyman repairs and things like that. And when you run into somebody, if in fact in your judgment that's either they need somebody potentially who's an estate sale company to come and help them clean the house out and remove the belongings of that person before it gets sold or something like that. I mean, you're a referral channel for that. So you don't have to have the money to go do it. You just have to have the ability to refer somebody there to go do it. You don't have to pay for it. The other thing is, depending on who the customer is and what kind of repairs are necessary and things like that, if in fact the house were to go to be listed, and I will encourage you as part of this to make sure you have a good relationship with a good realtor. If you can't buy a house, you probably need to find the ability to refer it to a realtor and establish a good relationship with them. But there are contractors who will in fact do work for people that they'll get paid at the time of settlement. They'll get put on the HUD with a lien and pull the data or pull the information necessary to do that, and they'll get paid when the house gets sold. So there are lots of ways to deal with that. You just kind of have to be creative.
Well, I was going to actually just get the house under contract, and because I have a few buyers in my area, so I was just going to do that instead.
I mean, are you looking to just flip? Is that what you're looking to do, is just buy it and turn it instantly?
I'm just trying to just get a discount on the house and get a quick profit. That's pretty much what I'm trying to do. But also,
so, I mean, yeah, a big part of that is just getting control of the property. If you get control of the property and you get it under contract, you're able to buy it, it's possible to find find a buyer, and the buyer will pay you what's necessary to get it done, and you basically can do an almost simultaneous close where you literally take title and instantly turn it around and flip it and get it done. As long as you've got it under contract, you have the ability to control that.
Okay.
And then you don't lay the money out. It gets laid out by the ultimate buyer. Okay?
One more question. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get as much information as possible.
No,
so
that's fine.
I really feel sorry for the seller. So I actually want to help them out in the future. So is it best for me to to let them know that I could pay for these services in the future once I have enough capital? Or
not sure what you mean by that. So ask that again, and I don't really understand your question.
My apologies. Like the moving company, the real estate sales, because I'm trying to let them know they don't have to pay for anything. So in the future, is that best for me to do that and let them know they don't have to pay for nothing? All we want is if you want to list the house with us and stuff like that, we could get the house under contract and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're saying I'm willing to pay for everything that needs to get done. I mean, that's something you're going to have to use your own judgment about. You have to make your own choices as to, what you are willing to do or aren't willing to do, and you don't want to invest a lot of money in a property that you don't own and don't control. I think if you tell people that the best thing that you can do is to express to people that your expertise in terms of working with folks in probate is that you have experience in working with it. Here are the typical problems that people have, and that's, the house is filled with the belongings of someone who's passed away. It's hard to move through that, and, there are emotional challenges in getting that done, or there may be deferred maintenance on the house, or, whatever the other myriad problems are that might occur, that you have experience in answering those questions. The who pays for it aspect, you're just trying to get that conversation started. You're trying to become the person that's an expert, and there's nothing you haven't seen, there's nothing you don't know how to deal with, and you have to develop that expertise to be comfortable with it. Who pays for it really is going to be determined by, what the customer's willing to do and what you're willing to do. A lot of times that's something that, they're going to need to pay for, and you just provide access to the right people. That's your judgment call, bud.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you for your help.
You bet. And like I said, consider subscribing, and we make a lot of this easier for you. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
All righty. Next one up is 5418.
Hi, this is Rick out in California.
Hey there, Rick. I just came from California on a red eye. Got home.
You did?
Well, yeah, we just flew in this morning.
Oh, wow. I don't envy you.
So what's up?
This is mainly, I think, for Chad. I was trying to, I've got the brochures, I've completed the Probate Mastery course and such, and getting ready to go out on the street. And Chad had mentioned market saturation as a part of a presentation, and then he has, I assume, 3 prices at that time. And I was wondering if I could get more information on that, and also, is he using an MLS CMA in this closing situation, or is he doing it a different way? So that's, I need that.
Okay, let me ask you, let's start with the market saturation. Tell me what you mean by market saturation. Are you talking about a mailing program or an every door direct mail? How are you saturating the market?
No, it's at the closing table. It's that when you meet with you've already done the basics, and you're meeting with the people to list and or buy the property at that meeting. And he brings the market saturation concept and the pricing to that table. So maybe
as the listing agent, what you're talking about is what you're going to do to saturate the market to sell their property, correct?
Don't know what he means. That's why I'm asking you.
Okay.
But nice try.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only thing I will tell you is that generally is what you're looking for. When you're trying to saturate a market, you're basically saying, I understand as the agent, I understand our market very well, and the people who potentially will buy this property and are looking for this type of property, here are the ways that we saturate the market to make sure that we find as many of the opportunities to sell to those buyers or to expose your property to those buyers as possible. And there are multiple ways to do that. And what I'll do is I'll make sure, Rick, that I'll ask Chad that question, assuming he gets out of bed at some point and is able to take calls. I'll see what I can find out. But I think that's probably what he's referring to. And there are a number of ways you can do that. You can do it with an every door direct mail program into a particular market. If you're marketing a property that's in a particular development and a particular price, and in California, that's often the case, where you're going to find a home that, there are 500 homes like it. They're all kind of built similarly, and they're all in the same area. And finding the buyers that are looking for properties like that, pretty straightforward, because you're literally doing it with a campaign mailing to, I just listed the house at 123 Elm Street, and you can cover that with an every door direct mail. That's something that we do. We can offer that as a program where you're doing literally postcard mailings that are out there, just simply letting people know that there's a house available and is out there being marketed to get that done. That's an excellent way to get that done. And there may be some other ways. And like I said, I made a note here of your name and your question, and I'll see if there's anything else. I've not heard him express that term before.
Okay. In addition to that, he mentions that he uses free prices. Yeah,
and what you're generally doing in terms of three prices is what's the price that you would do if you're going to flip it to a wholesale. That's basically the least price you're going to buy it for. If they want the quickest money, this is what that would be. The second one would be a price that would be potentially an after repaired value, and that would be if there's work to be done on it, what would it be worth when it's done. And the third one would be, the long-term price, the one that says, okay, you want to put it on the market, you want to hold it for the best possible dollar amount, and here's the average days that it takes to get that done. And those are generally three tiers in terms of pricing. And there is a formulaic approach to doing that, having to do with the computation of after repaired value. And I'm assuming you have the ability to pull ARVs on most of what you're doing, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. I mean, that's a big part of that. And a lot of those are kind of windage things that you gain from experience in the marketplace. We'll go back to what I was saying before about a particular property in a development in California, for argument's sake, where that houses, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in this particular development, they typically go for this if they're in this kind of shape. Looking at this house, how much does this house need in terms of repairs and all that sort of stuff? So you're looking for a quick access to money as the first entry point, which is if you determine that your seller needs money, needs to move quickly to get something done, then that's the price that you're looking for as an investor. The other opposite end of that spectrum is if the house doesn't need a lot of repairs, they just want to do it for top dollar, your presentation is really about what it would be if it's going to be put on the market and sold over a period of time. And in the middle of that is simply an after repaired value. Here's what it's going to take to get it into shape to get it sold. And there's an investment value of that, and how long are you willing to wait to get that money done? And those are kind of your three price points.
Okay, I appreciate that. I believe you mentioned access to these Mastermind recordings and also the role plays.
Right.
How do I do that? How do I
They're all on. Everybody that's online and online on the website, and we also post all that. Are you a member of our Facebook group?
I'm a member of both, yes. Probate Mastery and the other one, but I don't see how I'm able to access through either one of those. Facebook. Yeah,
we put the links up for all of that. They're all posted on the Facebook group, so you should be able to see that when you're in there on the Facebook group. And also, we're going to post the seller net sheet that Chad is referring to. We'll post that up to the Facebook as well, so we'll take a look at that.
Yes, that was my other question too, the net sheet. So is this going to, when you say posted, is it posted to Probate Mastery alumni?
If it's something that's specifically out of Mastery, it would be posted to the Facebook Mastery group. If it's the regular Mastermind, which is our huge group on Facebook, it'll go there. And that one will probably go to the general Facebook group. And you're members of both of those, so you'll see it in both places. Also, the recordings are there as well.
Okay. all the leads Mastermind. Okay, I'm going right now. So
All right, sir.
What do I look at on this page specifically to do what you're saying?
Scroll down and look for a graphic that we always post when we post a recording. The graphic shows up there, and it's a recording, and it'll show you that.
Under post types, maybe all posts.
Yeah, just dig through it. And if you can't find it, just please give me a buzz back. Just call, either drop a message to support at All the Leads, or just give us a call, and we'll walk you through that. Okay?
Okay, yeah, I'm having trouble seeing it. All right, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, bud. Thank you. Appreciate the call.
Hey, Tim. I
Yes.
heard you were all alone. I'm on the road, but just
Hey,
in
bud.
case you need me, I'm here. You may lose me, but I'm here for now.
All right. Thanks. Stick around, and we'll see what's going on here. Next caller is 7995.
Hello?
Hey there.
Hey, this is Michael from Kansas, and I was wondering, I watched your videos. I'm familiar with the leads you guys have in the packages, how you got all the letters already together in the post mail. I'm very interested in that, but I was wondering, does it actually take much money to get started with actually buying a house from a potential buyer going through probate?
Well, I mean, that's a pretty broad question. I mean, if you're buying a house, it takes whatever it takes to buy the house. Do you mean, are there extra things that you need to do to buy a house that's in probate?
Well, I guess, what are some other options if you don't have an abundance of money available? If you don't have $60,000 to $120,000 available to buy from a potential buyer, what's another option to go through with getting a house? Would it be wholesaling, or what's another option?
Well, I mean, if you're an investor, the first thing that you should be doing right now is to have some hard money lenders that you can, make offers and use their money to buy the property with. Have you cultivated a hard money lender list of any sort?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, that's one of the first things that you need to do. You need to make sure that you find lenders who are willing to lend money on properties that you find. In your marketplace, one of the first places and easiest places to look is on Craigslist. If you look on Craigslist, you can often find money to lend buyers that are there. Also, local real estate investment associations. Typically, are you a member of your local real estate investment association?
No, I'm not.
Okay, you need to do that. That's generally very inexpensive to join, and typically real estate investment association members are solicited by hard money lenders that will be the people that you'll borrow money from. If you don't have the money to lay out to get it done. The other thing is, from a personal standpoint, if you have a home that you own, it's got some equity in it, and you can use a home equity loan, you can pull your own money out. Not necessarily recommending you do that. Most people who are in the investment business will tell you that's the worst thing to go do, but it also depends on the property. If you've got no money and you want to try to grow it, you have to roll the dice sometimes. Sometimes you have to gamble to make money, but finding a hard money lender is a great place to go to do that. But if you don't have any money, you're not going to play very well. You can't. At some point, you got to take title to the property, and to do that, you got to be able to pay for it.
Right. And you said join the local real estate investment group, or I'm sorry.
Right. Yes. Join a local real estate investment association. There's a national RIA that's out there, REIA, and if you look that up on Google and look in your local market, just put wherever your local market is. What you said, you're in Kansas?
Yes.
Yeah. Where in Kansas are you?
In the Manhattan, Kansas area.
Okay, see if there's not a real estate investment association. It may be large, it may be small, but you'll find people there who are doing what you do, and generally they're pretty good folks to deal with, and will share the information they have, and they can tell you more in your local marketplace what the sources are for funding for things like that. Okay?
Okay. I was going to jump into the best national group that I recommend. It's called nationalria.com. REIA.com, national REIA.com, and you can go on the website and there's a map, and you can just kind of click your general area, and most major metropolitan areas have a member of that association. that's an easy way to find them. One other thing I was going to mention real quick, the nice thing with probate is really no more or less expensive to an investor than any other type of investing. The couple nice features of it is there's so little competition. You know, it's not like a lot of other sources where you've got 100 agents going after the same leads. And another nice thing about probate is if you're able to get it under contract, it generally takes a few months until, you know, the probate is completed. So a lot of times it'll give you time to find your end buyer before you actually have to close. So for the most part, it's in a lot of ways, it's better than a normal transaction.
Okay, so it's not necessarily cheaper or more expensive than any other like a traditional real estate.
Well, not as far as the hard costs, but typically you are able to find, or often you're able to find a better deal because there's so much less competition.
And the seller tends to be a bit more motivated at times as well. You may find that the seller's more motivated because they need to get out of that property for reasons that have to do with providing value to the heirs in the property need the money, or they need to provide for health care, so they will be willing to take a discounted price. So as Jim said, you know, you're less competitive in some cases and find a more motivated seller. That's the whole premise of probate.
Right. Okay. I understand. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Good deal. Jimbo, stick around, bud.
All right. I'm here. I'm in good cell range for another half hour, so I should be fine.
All right. Next caller is 8564.
Yes, good evening. Or good afternoon.
Or good morning.
I just got, whatever. I just got my list on Tuesday, and the letters dropped today. But I have two questions. One is, I'm a licensed realtor and an investor. So what name should I use? The one is a realtor, or is it my investor?
Name in what regard? What do you mean, the name?
For the marketing material, which company should I use?
Depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to buy the property, you know, it's purely around your motivation. If you're trying to buy it, then you obviously want to go under the entity that you're trying to use to do that with. If you want to put it on the market, that's the other side of it. That's kind of your call in terms of, you know, your market, and probably going to be more sensitive to that after you try it, maybe both ways, depending on how you want to go do it and see where you get the most traction.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd also give you a third option. We usually tell both the realtor and the investor, don't wear either hat. You know, come at it. Call yourself, you know, whatever market you're in. Get a domain name and just call yourself a probate expert or a probate specialist, and tell people, you know, I specialize in helping people that have inherited property, and here's a lot of different ways that I can help you. You know, it's kind of hard sometimes to switch hats, but if you don't put a hat on to start with, you just take a more generic approach and see what their motivation is. You know, often that works a lot better. You know, once you're an investor and you make them a low offer, it's hard to switch hats and become a realtor, and and vice versa. So I would Chad usually recommends go call yourself a probate expert or a probate specialist, and maybe have a third entity. What market are you in again?
I'm in New Jersey.
Okay, so whatever your county is, you know, New Jersey inherited property, or New Jersey probate experts, or, you know, something generic like that just doesn't denote realtor or an investor is often the best way to go. And just, I mean, you can mention both companies just like you mentioned all the affiliates you work with, but it's just one of many options rather than just, you know, pigeonholing yourself to just giving them one option.
Also throw one other thing out there. We have a case study that we'll also link on the Mastermind group, and it's a case study for one of our excellent folks that's out there named David Pannell, and he actually brands himself as 3 different companies. And our case study talks about that, and we'll put a link to that up on the Mastermind group right after this call, and I suggest you listen to that as well. He does an excellent job of kind of talking about how he accomplishes some of what Jim's talking about as well. I mean, it's like Jim said, there's a lot of options there. Not doing it at all, you're not taking the ammo out of your gun If you tell them you're a realtor, they're not going to be looking to you if they're trying to sell the house themselves or want to get it done, or they're trying to hustle with it. If you tell them you're an investor, they don't want to deal with an investor. They want to put it on the market. So there's obviously value to doing both ways. So Jim's suggestion is a good one, but also listen to David Pannell's case study, and we'll get that for you as well.
Okay. Out of the 106 leads that I got, only 14. There were only 14 attorneys, and only 2 of the attorneys had more than one client. So I have 90 leads with no attorneys at all.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean. Go ahead.
How would you recommend me approaching an estate attorney who's been referred to me to work with these kind of clients?
One who's been referred to you. You mean you have, in essence, you have a friend who is an estate attorney, and you're going to refer him out to some of these people who you think don't have one?
Well, no, it was a friend of mine, another realtor. I said, well, I'm looking for an estate attorney, so he referred me to this particular individual who I don't know. So when I call that person, how does that conversation go to say, hey, look, I got 90 leads. I haven't talked to them yet. I understand you're an estate attorney. Because I called one person, and it was a very stilted conversation.
Okay. Now I understand your question. You're trying to establish a relationship with that attorney, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, part of what your job is to establish a relationship with that attorney and explain what value you bring to the equation. You're trying to let that attorney know that you are a realtor who understands probate. You are a person who has experience in that marketplace, and here are all the things that you do. We talked earlier to the earlier caller about establishing a group of people that you work with that handle cleanout, that handle estate sale, that handle all of that, and that you've demonstrated some expertise in that by putting that group of people together and talk about the expertise that you're looking for. The one thing that you need to remember with this is that you're looking for that attorney that gets that appointment by the person that's there. You're looking for somebody who can help him get to his money quicker. You got to be aware of one other thing, that some attorneys are getting paid by the amount of time they spend getting it done, so their motivation isn't always 100% pure. They're not always working as quickly to be expeditious as they can, but in most cases, your job is to make sure the attorney knows there are things that you can handle that he doesn't have to expect the executor of the estate to handle. You can help them get that done. So you're the person that can help make his life easier and get him to money faster. And those are the things that are the most motivating for him.
Yeah, that's a great generic approach. And in your given situation there, it's also, I would also add to that. And by the way, over the last 3 months, I have 90 people, in the records I have here, I have 90 people that don't have an attorney. Would you mind if I referred them to you or gave you that information? That's a great way to to keep the door open.
Well, my question is, if the attorney says, okay, great, wonderful, how do I vet him to make sure that he's going to do the kind of job that I want him to do? He's going to be empathetic. He's going to be timely. Those kinds of questions about.
You interview him. You literally interview him just like you'd be interviewing somebody, and that's a great way to be taken seriously by the attorney. Is I want to make sure that if I want to establish a meaningful relationship, let's talk. And just like anybody else that you're going to size them up, literally interview them. And in some cases, you got to buy an hour of an attorney's time to get their attention. If they're busy and that's their business, you may need to buy an hour of his time and go sit down with them and say, I'm real serious about this. I want to get this done. And I'm trying to find the right person to work with, and you may be that person, and I want to be your person. Let's talk.
Do you have questions that go with that?
Not specifically. I mean, I think a lot of it is sort of common sense. You ask about empathy. You ask about that. I mean, you can ask. A great way to get that process started is to not play dumb, but to be asking questions that are learning questions about what's going on in that local market. What can you potentially do to help me learn more? And there are things that I need to learn as well. And it's literally a fact-finding thing. I'm building this business. I've established a relationship with a company that's providing me great information about probate in my market, and I'm trying to find the right people to work with. I do want to caution you about one thing. Just because you're not seeing those attorneys listed on that docket does not mean that there's not an attorney. It just means there's not one that's on that recorded docket. In New Jersey, you're going to find that there are a lot of cases where it's not necessarily going to show up on the docket, but it will be there, and they do have attorneys. So don't represent that you've got all these people. You've got a lot of people that don't show an attorney listed. You got to be real careful about how you express that. Probably a bunch of those do have attorneys.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Thank you.
All righty. So that answer that for you?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
All right, perfect. That's great. All right, next caller coming up is 7553.
Hey, this is Nick Titchno from Seattle, Washington. I'm a realtor, but also primarily a wholesaler. And I have a quick question. I just kind of heard about all the leads, and I'm trying to figure out if I sign up for the program. One of the quotes was $345 for 100 leads. Does that also include a course, or is it just information on the lead?
So if you sign up for our program, you get everything that we have to offer, with the exception of Probate Mastery. And Probate Mastery is a course that is offered that my partner Chad teaches. Chad, I believe you're on here now. Are you out of bed?
Yeah, finally. Sorry I'm late.
All right. If Chad's here, I'm going to sign out because I got a bunch of people waiting for me to go. Thank you, guys. Have a great
Go get him, Bubba.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep. So yeah, other than Mastery, you get our complete system. You get access to everything on our back end. You get access to all of our information sources. You get access to our management system that allows you to do the CRM and work with your customers and all the pieces of the puzzle that you get. You get us. Basically, we don't just furnish you leads. We are a system, and we teach a system, and we provide all the automation to do it for you. And that's the whole premise of what we do. We're not just a lead company.
Got it. Awesome.
Okay.
Cool. Very simple. Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, sir. That's great. And again, *6 and 1 will put you in the queue. We have a couple more people left in the queue. 7225, you're up.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can indeed hear you.
Wonderful. All right, so this is Salim. I am here in Queens, New York. I've been a realtor and an investor for many years. Last year we closed on 40 properties here locally in Queens and Brooklyn and some in the Bronx. For some reason we get quite a bit of probate work that gets referred to us. So I would say almost 30% of our properties we closed last year, about 10 to 12 of them at least, were probate. And every year that has been happening and building. And after I heard what Chad had to say, because I was on the 3-day program, and I looked at the statistics, it just makes more sense for us to build on that business. We got the leads, the first 100 ones, we called them, but have had zero response from those people. So what I'm looking for some guidance is how do we take that to the next step where we can start to get in some of that inventory in. We already have most of the, like Chad says, spokes in the wheel. We can always add more. But since we've been doing it, we have the handy people, this, that, and the other, and we always help them. We sometimes give them a dumpster. We have them cleaned out the house, whatever the need may be, case by case. But at this point, really what I'm looking is, like, how do we get really into getting some of those? And the other statistic was pretty clear. Maybe 90% of those will be listing, maybe 10%, purchasing opportunities. So we're clear on that too.
So your biggest problem is just contacting,
just getting into the door. Yeah, get in the door, because once we do, we know what to do, how to talk to them, and of course
Sure.
There's more to learn, but we've been doing it so it's not something we're just starting out now.
So tell us about your whole marketing sequence. How many calls, how many letters, what's your frequency? What have you done so far?
So far, it's really all we've done is made some calls, and
Okay.
we've had flat refusals, basically.
Okay.
So we need a program, a system, and we want to see what you have, what the cost is. Is that more effective? I mean, that's what I'm really looking at.
Sure. And this, I mean, just like every other marketing, it's about frequency more than anything. So everybody moves through this at a different pace, and that's somewhere between 1 day and 3 years. They're going to make a move whenever they feel ready. What we have found is, a combination of marketing mediums is the best approach. That's why we teach you to, send a letter every 30 days for 3 months, and then follow each with at least one phone call. If you guys are just making, like it sounds like you're just making one call and then kind of sitting and waiting, you're not going to get like 10% direct response on your mail campaigns. However, what you will get is a different level of trust. They're going to get your letter. It will look completely different than anything else they've gotten if you have competitors mailing you, and I promise you do. So when they hear your name on a voicemail or when you catch them on the phone, it's going to be a different reception. And we have people that do letters, postcards, trifold brochures, and then we have folks that are doubling down on the phones. They're calling once a day for the first 7 days in some of the most competitive markets in the country. And everyone's sequence will settle in to be a little bit different. Like what works for you might not necessarily work in Des Moines, Iowa. But the first thing I would say is up the frequency of your calls. I mean, you guys have the bandwidth to do that. Can you double down?
Yeah, we can assign one person just to do that. That's not a problem.
Yeah, so I would do a morning round and an evening round. And if you're going to call that frequently, just back off your voicemails and just have the policy of we call until we speak. And that way you're not filling someone who's not ready. You're not filling their voicemail inbox and getting a negative branding impression every 24 hours.
Right.
Instead,
that would just be annoyance.
Right. And I don't know if David Pannell's on this call. If you saw the case study we did with him, it's been 2 weeks ago now, I guess. I mean, David has a very aggressive sequence where he hits them with 7 phone calls up front, and then they go into direct mail, email, and we're even working on layering social media in there. So the more touches you can have, the more likely you are to convert. But the thing that I would do today is get back on the phones, and if you called them in the morning, try them again in the evening. And if you tried them today, try them tomorrow.
Right, but when they pick up and they say no, so then what do? We're not interested.
Well,
so far,
you have to use your judgment. Like if you think they're legitimate, like 9 times out of 10, that's a behavior pattern that they've learned will run you off because they've heard from people who don't really have any value to offer them, and they know they can chase you. If they can fib and you think the opportunity's gone, then most people will hang up the phone. Not me. I'm going to ask more questions, or I'm going to say, "Oh, that's great." Most families struggle through this, and you could say, well, for example, one of the things we do for every family is get them over to our financial team, so we make sure that they at least know their options for what to do with the distribution, and we show you how to your family never has to go through this again. So is that something you'd like me to set up for you, or would you like that number? And something like that, like don't take no for an answer. And I guarantee you, like there is nobody I've ever met in probate that really has dealt with that has received the level of service that they could receive. Like nobody has done everything. Some people legitimately think they have everything handled, but they don't know that you can step in and show them how to turn their money into private money with a 10 to 12% return, secured by real estate in their backyard. Like you're an investor, you're doing 40 deals a year. Could you use another $500,000 to $1 million in cash? And would you pay a 10% rate with no points?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so turn those people into private money lenders. Like think outside of the box, but don't take in your heart, like you can help them and you can make money, and you just have to ask better questions. So if they shut you down, so we got it handled, we don't need any help. Oh, listen, that's what my last 9 clients said, and they ended up being my bank. So we flip about 40 houses a year here in Brooklyn and Queens. Would you like to learn how you can double your money every 3.2 years by becoming our lender? And you broke their pattern.
Right.
So
Yeah,
now
by the
you
way,
can
the
talk
40
to them.
deals were brokerage deals, so not flips.
Well, however many of those were. I know you had a whole. I thought I heard that you had a mix of wholesales and brokerage, but regardless, you can help them avoid probate for future generations. You can help them grow the inheritance money, even if there was no real estate and it was the simplest probate ever. There's still something you can do that's going to be like, wow, what's he talking about? No one else has offered me this. And that's where the engagement comes from. And then, like, once you have engagement and real rapport, then people start to tell the truth. Like, well, my dad had these 12 houses, and none of us kids want to screw with being landlords. Can you just come list those? And that's a real story, by the way. That happened from somebody who was getting shut down, and they were told, we got it handled. It's simple. There's nothing. We don't need help. And they asked a couple more layers of questions and took 13 listings off of one conversation where they were trying to be shut down. So in those cases, just push further with a good positive question, and that question should demonstrate value to them. So you can show them how to get over to your financial team, how you can basically turn them into the lender for you or your other investors. And if you haven't listened to the role play calls, that's what, this is more and more common. Like, we're seeing more competition, mainly from the investor side. But we do talk a lot about this, like we've got it handled, we don't need your help, or just, people just hanging up. So if you haven't listened to some of the past role play calls, you and your team should, listen to maybe the last 2 or 3 to, sharpen your axe.
So let me ask you this. Is there a sample letter
for
sending out? Like, initially, maybe I'm thinking instead of just picking up the phone and calling them, if you guys have a sample letter that we can duplicate or work with, is that available?
So you're not a subscriber?
We are. We're buying the leads.
Okay, so yeah, if you go into, if you log in.
Leads, we are, right?
What's that?
I said if you're buying the leads, that makes us a subscriber. I just want to make sure.
Yes. Okay. So you have a login. You'll log into the subscriber portal, and under Mailbox Motivator, you're going to see campaign setup, letter brochures, letter and brochure samples. And under the letters tab, you'll see, I think we have maybe 12 or 15 proven letters that we've developed over time. And you can choose which one of those you think is the best fit for you and your service. You definitely want to get your personality and your business values into it. So focus on, make the first paragraph very you. And make the PS line and your closing paragraph, personal to you and your business and what you offer. So, you want to leverage, you want to talk about, we helped we helped 12 families last year, and we've made it a point this year to double that or triple that.
Right.
So, bring that experience into the letter.
To start with the letter and then follow up with the calls. At least they have introductory.
That's what we find to be most effective. So, like, kind of the minimum campaign is the day your leads come in, your letter should be mailed out, and within 2 days of that letter hitting, you should be following up with phone calls. And that's what we find to be the best recipe. You'll capture the ones that are going to move really early, the really motivated ones. You'll get those wholesale deals or acquisitions. And then over time, and then you'll repeat the sequence every 30 days, and you stick with them for a minimum of 90 days. Now, what you'll find is over time, you'll start to get, a lot of folks will get your letter, they'll hang on to it, they'll call you 6 to 12 months down the road, and you'll start getting come list me calls from people you've never even spoke to.
and that tends to happen about 3 months in, and then it just keeps kind of building on top of itself. That's another thing, and David, the interview we did with David, I mean, he's got momentum now where they're doing a lot of follow-up. They've got a lot of mail pieces and a lot of phone calls, and they're getting business from 12 months ago. So you'll get the letters in the mail and you know, be diligent with your phone call follow-ups. If you can afford, if your budget supports, you know, more than 3 touches in a mailing campaign, mail them once a month. You know, our CRM is designed with the opt-out under the option status tab on each lead. You can opt them out of mail, phone calls, or email. If you're using that, then, you know, you might start with 100 leads at the beginning of this month. By the first round of letters and calls, you'll whittle that down to maybe 50. And so next month, you're only paying for 50 letters and making 50 calls. The next month, you may be down to 25. The next, you might be down to 10. But in a perfect world, we want you to continue calling and continue mailing until you've spoken to everybody. Like, the only way you know what's happening in a probate case is to speak to the attorney or the personal representative directly. Otherwise, we're still guessing.
Yeah.
So if you have the bandwidth and the budget, keep letters in the mail and keep people on the phones for 12 months at least, if you can support that. And there's people listening to this right now going, "Oh my gosh, I'm only marketing for 3 months." It's okay. Like, people, especially in counties with really high lead counts, you know, the campaign costs kind of spirals out of control for most people. That's why we don't recommend, you know, the minimum of 12 months of marketing. We recommend at least 3 months because we know you'll find success there. But the more you can add to that, the more success you're going to find.
So 3 months, you're saying every month a letter and then calls, right? At the same time, when you get the letter, you make a call. And if it doesn't happen in 3 months, keep on sending letters every month?
Yeah, to the ones you haven't spoken to and the ones that you have marked as follow-up, you know, because one day they'll have that breakthrough, and whether it's, you know, it was tension in the family or just grief, like their social behavior of we're not ready to move forward even though we initiated. Like, one day they'll have a breakthrough and they'll be ready to go.
And remember, everybody else will have stopped by then. The other people who've been marketing to them will have stopped marketing by then. That's the important thing to remember.
Right. So, I mean, after a while, that pipeline starts to build. What is the cost of your CRM, and how many touches does that have in it?
So there's no cost. It's designed to be incredibly simple. It's not preloaded with a bunch of stuff. I mean, we made it basically as a prospecting tool. So it's something that we provide for free. You know, we developed it because we know that essentially our whole business model has been designed around the choke points we see both for realtors and investors in the space. So people weren't getting their mail. People were having trouble managing their list, so we built software and gave it to you. People were having trouble managing their mail campaigns, so we built a full-service mail house. So those are all things we don't necessarily have a bunch of add-on fees and charge you for. If you look, your subscriber portal has everything that we've talked about. And obviously there's a separate cost for the mail that you send, and if we make the phone calls for you. But as far as the data, the tools, the training, all these calls, all that stuff's rolled into your subscription price when you buy.
Have you had a welcome call? Have you walked through this all?
No, I need to do that. I think that's what's missing for me, because I hear some of the questions I'm asking can be answered through that. So who can?
Because we reach out to everyone we reach out to everybody when you first sign up, and I'll make sure I've got your information down here. I'll make sure that Tom, who's our other partner who does this, reaches out to you in the next couple of days, and actually he's on vacation today, but he'll be back in the saddle on Monday, and I'm going to have him reach out to you and make sure that he will get in touch with you and walk you through all the pieces, okay?
Yeah, that'll be great. Thank you so much. And thanks.
All right. Super. Thank you for calling. Great questions. Next caller, ending in 1740. The queue is closed, by the way, and we have one more after this.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, good afternoon.
My name is James. I'm calling from the Atlanta area. I have a question. I'm trying to get some education on the probate process. I'm not 100% acclimated to the steps. But I've run across a property that's distressed in my area. I spoke with the personal representatives, and we come to an agreement with the sales price. We've spoken a couple of times initially. I believe there's an issue with not being a will. The personal representative's mother's parent. A lot of investors tried to move forward, and they weren't able to get the property under contract and whatnot. So after speaking with the personal representative, the granddaughter, the mother is in her 90s now, so she's not really able to, her thought process is she's not sure. But actually, a partner and I, we done a flip 2 doors down from her property, the daughter. Anyhow, so speaking with the personal representative, there's an issue with getting with the attorney. She said that they need signatures from, I guess, the heirs. When I look on look at the description as far as the property, it says the ownership is estate, and it still is in the original owner's name. I kind of lost track with the personal representative. She hasn't been taking my calls, and I'm just trying to get some understanding on how I can move forward, pay for this property, and get it rehabbed. Can you help me with?
Let me make sure I heard you correctly. So the person, the decedent, was the mother of the 90-year-old lady who it sounds like might not have the capacity to sign a contract. Is that right?
Yes.
And then the court has appointed a personal representative who is the great-granddaughter?
Yes, correct.
Excuse me, just the granddaughter.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, I do want to add that the mother has sisters, and a lot of the brothers have passed away. I spoke with the mother a number of times, coming with the paperwork, the contract, trying to get the property sold. She needs to speak to her sisters. So I'm lost in this process.
Okay. So you've got a very elderly woman who passed away, naming her daughter, the 90-year-old woman that you've talked about, naming her as the personal representative, but she doesn't have the capacity, so that has fallen down to her daughter. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, well, the 90-year-old woman, father and mother, is still on the deed.
Right. And the mother is the most recently deceased, correct?
No, the mother's still living. So the original owner has passed away. It was now the property is, the personal representative was the daughter, and now the daughter is in her 90s. So the personal representative is the granddaughter.
Right. And so I'm on track. That's how I understood it as well. And there is a paper trail where the 90-year-old woman passed her responsibility as the administrator to her daughter, correct?
I need to verify that, but that's what I was told by the personal representative.
Okay, well that's good. So if that's the case, then if the granddaughter has the letters of testamentary, which are the court documents that give her the authority to make decisions on behalf of the estate, if what we've said is the case, then she is the decision maker. You can sign a purchase agreement with her. Now you're going to have to go back. So the first layer of heirship is going to be the 90-year-old and the two siblings that you referenced, or all siblings. Well, let me back up. If there was no will, and remember you said that this is intestate, no will, correct?
To my recollection, because if it was a will,
Okay.
wouldn't it the ownership transferred in the probate process?
Well, if
The
there's
original
no will,
owners
if there's
still
no
own
will, think of it this way: if there's the will is the roadmap for handling probate. If there is no will, then state law becomes the roadmap for handling the estate. So if it sounds like that's the case, it was intestate succession. So grandma passed away. Her daughter was named as the personal representative or the administrator because she was whatever the most responsible or maybe the only one living, it sounds like. She didn't have the capacity, so she passed that down to her daughter, who is the granddaughter. Now she has
Correct.
that authority. However, but even because she has the authority doesn't mean that top layer of heirs, that they still have to be paid according to state law. If there wasn't a will skipping them, then they still have rights. And if the siblings are deceased, then their families, their estate has rights. So that's where you have to start. Sometimes you have to chase these, and it's usually pretty simple. So the way I would play this, I would go to the granddaughter, and I would present her with a purchase agreement, negotiate it, and get that signed and ratified. I would then submit that to the probate attorney and say, I'll be opening escrow with this attorney. And what we teach you, you should have a rock star attorney that they've done transactions in short sales, bankruptcy, foreclosure, especially courthouse step foreclosure. They're used to dealing with messy title, because this is going to be a walk in the park compared to a foreclosure or bankruptcy. So it becomes their burden as the closing agent. They have the burden of reaching out to those people, notifying them that they are heirs, and either getting them to sign away their rights or come to the table. And that becomes their responsibility, not yours. And that's one of the key spokes in your wheel is a really solid closing attorney or title company and they're going to have an attorney on retainer that handles this. But the bottom line is whoever has the letters testamentary can sign a contract with you today. You can lock it up. Give yourself a good timeline. Like I would give myself, if they're comfortable with it, I would give myself a 90-day closing. Are you trying to wholesale this or close on it?
Close on it. That's the goal,
Okay.
is to rehab it.
Yeah, so give yourself a 90-day closing on or before 90 days, and give yourself a contingency, like this is contingent upon, upon court approval and whatever contingencies you feel like you need to give yourself a reasonable window to get the deal done while they go hunt those people. But get that into the probate attorney's hands and get it into the hands of your closing attorney who's used to dealing with title issues, and give them as much of the story as you can with closing instructions and say, here are the facts that we know so far. We need to go contact, obviously, the 90-year-old lady, and her siblings or their family need to be contacted. If her siblings have passed away, then the family either needs to sign a release or be included in the final distribution. And the attorneys will know what paperwork needs to be done. You don't have to do all that. That's outside of your scope. But it sounds like, as long as if everybody's on board and willing to sell, we just need to make sure we know who's due a distribution. And quite frankly, that's not really your problem as the buyer of real estate. It's what happens after the closing is really the problem of the probate attorney. If you have a ready, willing, and able seller and you bring the cash to the table, the probate attorney should close that out, put the cash in the bank account. As long as there's a fidelity bond, they can release the closing funds to the bank. Then they can sort out who gets what cash. But it shouldn't hold up the property sale. If the granddaughter has the letters and you guys can agree on a price, that's the best way to move forward quickly.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. One more question, though. If I decide to wholesale it, should I change the contingency?
Well, I mean, the important thing, and especially for anyone on here that's looking to wholesale but you haven't done a deal in probate yet, the number one thing to be aware of is your timeline. So as a wholesaler, your reputation is everything because you're essentially selling paper for tens of thousands of dollars. So if your paper is garbage, then you're going to hurt your reputation quickly, and people aren't going to want to buy your deals because they're buying your liability instead of your asset. So just make sure that you think about, okay, I'm asking a guy to pay me $10,000 for this sheet of paper. Like, have I tightened up this contract? Does he have clear contingencies? Does he have time to do due diligence? Does he have time to get hard money if he needs to? Like, have I given him a solid window to establish, to get finance in place to take this deal down? And usually a 90-day window is more than enough. Like on most wholesales, a 30-day window is enough. But in this situation, we know we're going to have to chase some signatures. We're going to have to go find some people who it sounds like the family might not know where everybody is. So it could take a few weeks sometimes to track people down. And that's where it becomes it's crucial that you have a very diligent escrow partner. And ideally that person's, they're a real estate attorney with a lot of hairy title issue experience. But so just be aware of your timeline and make sure you leave enough time in there for your buyer to do their due diligence and get their finance in place. And probably 90 days. If you can leave it open-ended instead of a closing date, you can put in an asterisk and see additional terms instead of a date. And then the additional terms, this contract is contingent upon all parties being identified and notified and yada, yada, yada. The attorney can help you with that language to fit the specific situation. But instead of putting a closing date in, you could say this shall close on or before, within, 90 days of all parties being notified. Or once you know all the details, it'll be easier to write the specific contingency. And if you need help with that, just call back in. Like go gather some more facts and call back. And if you need help with it, I can help you craft your contract language.
Okay, so we got one more in the queue, and we're already 10 minutes over our line. We're gonna let David Pannell's been waiting patiently. We're gonna let him take us to the barn and call it a day after that. David, go ahead.
I just heard Chad ask for me, so I'm just going to say that I'll be available on these calls for moving forward for a while, so I'm just trying to increase my knowledge. So anything Chad needed?
Cool. Yeah, I was pointing to you because I was referencing your marketing sequence. So if you don't mind, David, just real quick, share with everybody what your sequence is and where you're headed with that. I know it's growing in complexity. And just like on the video, we'll preface this, like David is very quickly mastering this, and he's moved from a level of kind of like in action to utilizing the system to very quickly outgrowing our system and growing it into something very unique to his business. So don't let it freak you out. If you're not doing a 77-touch campaign, it doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. David didn't start there. He started with the basics. So, but if you can, just share your sequence and what that looks like over, the first 12 months.
Well, I did everything against what y'all taught, and I didn't leverage the knowledge on the website that I'm discovering the last couple of months. I just got in, made some calls, made some errors, and got freaked out. But the sequence it's individual depending on when you speak to them, but until we talk to them, we're not going to probably we'll probably send them 1 or 2 letters, but then it really ramps up once we have a conversation going. And we want to educate them or over-educate them on what we could do and what they have options to. And one of the taglines that I'm going to start using is that we're going to do everything the attorneys don't want to do or have time for. But then we're branding 3 different companies as for cash purchases, as listing it, or a discount listing service. Just whatever gets that phone call. We don't care what version they call in, what number they call in. We just want to set the appointment and get in front of them. and then we're not going to wear any hats.
Like zoom into the first week. So you're calling, if I remember correctly, you're calling daily for the first week, and you got at least one mail piece out, right?
Yeah.
So rather than sending one letter and making one phone call, David's taking a much more aggressive approach. Send one letter and follow it with 7 phone calls. And then once he makes contact, he'll rate them in a certain way. And because of the complexity of his system, he has, for the lack of a better term, just workflows based on their rating. So if their rating is, has real estate follow-up, then they'll go into an aggressive follow-up sequence. If their rating does not have real estate, then they might only get one more phone call and one more letter offering those non-real estate related services, because we know referrals come back in through those channels. And what's really important about David's sequence is he just continues to follow up. And that momentum is clear. I mean, you can see, if you guys haven't seen David's video, he's on track to do right at 100 deals this year, just in probate, with over 30,000 direct competitors in one market. And
we just hit 30 deals for this year from the source. So we were at 22 when I did the video.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Yeah.
So you've basically done two a week since we did that interview.
Yeah. The church didn't turn out to be so good of a deal. It only turned out to be 17,000. So it was hard to find at the end.
You poor thing. You worked 2 hours for 17 grand.
Yeah. Well, but we did turn in. I text Chad, and he's like, "Yeah, that would work out." We did a wholesale deal for over 30 grand, and then it turned into the lady is buying over $600,000 worth of real estate with buying and listing a house. So in just one contact and one phone call, we got in front of them because we set the appointment, and we weren't like an investor and a realtor. You could actually, on the appointment, she said the reason they went with us is because we didn't act like we were on any side of the fence. We were asking what they wanted to do, what were their plans. And she said nobody approached her that way. But, man, get your real estate license if you're in on these leads, because there's so many opportunities. It's we're pretty much, the success rate on these is so high, it's crazy.
Yeah. So we're short on time, David. Thanks for jumping up. I appreciate you being here. And guys, if you guys are wondering what we're talking about, if you haven't seen the interview, jump into alltheleads.com, go to blog, and you can use the search bar to put in case study, or just go to the blog and scroll down. We do post a lot of new content every week. But you'll see a probate case study with David Pannell, and it's about an hour-long conversation that David and I had, and he was generous enough to kind of let us all behind the curtain to see the evolution of what he's done with the system and what it's become for him. So if you haven't seen that, take an hour and watch. It's very inspiring to kind of see where he's come in the last 12 months. And I'm even more excited to see where you'll be by next June. I think we'll be talking about the whole state of Texas by then.
All right. That's great. Well, it's 2:16, so we've run a good bit over. Thank you to the folks that stayed with us for a bit. Chad, do you want to give the Jim speech? You do it so well.
I want to challenge each and every one of you to take one thing you heard here today, one thing that inspired you, go out, put it into action, and come back next week to tell us your success story. Thanks so much, and make it a great day.
Well done. Jim couldn't have said it better himself. Have a great day, guys. Talk to you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye now.